Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be men and talk about masculinity and men's issues. I'm your host, Brian Crawl, and today I'm going to be mansplaining to you about advanced female manipulation tactics. This is part 2 in a 2-part series. If you have not seen part 1 on basic manipulation tactics, watch that first. The link is there below. But now, there is a lot to cover today. We're going to be taking a real deep dive into the advanced manipulation tactics that women use. And the first one is probably the biggest, or at least it requires the most explanation, and that is reverse psychology. This is when a girl will say the opposite of what she means, and the hope with her twisted female logic here is that somehow this manipulation will have an equal or greater effect to actually saying what she means, right? So when a girl you're dating says fine when really using a tone of voice that tells you it's obviously not fine, that's one of the more common and subtle, smaller examples of this. It also occurs when a woman tells you to do what you want when she is already acting as though she resents you for it, such as saying, if that's what you want to do, then go right ahead, or if that's how you want to be, okay, see if I care. Reverse psychology is a very common thing in dating because a woman doesn't want to seem like she's imposing demands upon a man. So what she does is says the opposite of what she wants and makes it obvious that it's not what she wants. And if a girl's facial expressions don't match what she's saying, then she's most likely using reverse psychology. Now, this doesn't mean you should try to become a mind reader and start playing this game and doing what you think it is she actually wants you to do. Once you start playing this game, you have then changed the expectations of the relationship dynamic, and they will expect you to consistently read their mind and do what they want without them communicating to you about it directly. And you will start getting punished when you don't. So do not reward this childish form of bad communication and manipulation. If she wants to communicate, make her do it directly like an adult. Go by what she says, and if she complains about it later, just tell her you had done exactly what she said, and she can't fault you for it. You're not a mind reader, and expecting you to be one is psychotic. If she tries to punish you later for doing something she told you to do, you can actually call her out for being an unhealthy influence in not one, but 2 ways: the miscommunication plus the unjust punishment. The upside to this is that oftentimes reverse psychology is a free pass for you to go and do something that your girlfriend doesn't want you to do, or whatever the girl in question doesn't want you to do. And if a girl you are arguing with says fine when she doesn't seem fine with it, it's her fault for not expressing herself correctly, and she has handed you a victory and you can walk away in peace. So my advice is, if she's telling you you can get away with something, then take that opportunity. I once had a girlfriend tell me she didn't want me to buy her any gifts on Mother's Day since she wasn't my son's real mother, so of course I didn't get the whiny bitch anything. She later told me that she actually did want something, and she wanted me to get something for her in spite of her telling me that she didn't. Well, too fucking bad. Like, she's right. She's not my son's mother, and she told me not to get him anything, so why the fuck would I? You've given me 2 good reasons not to do it, so I didn't fucking do it, and she can't fault me for that. Another time a girlfriend used reverse psychology on me that was kind of funny is when my last girlfriend suggested an open relationship, when what she really wanted was for me to prove my loyalty and not accept that offer. But that one really bit her in the ass when the next day one of her girlfriends told her that she had seen me on a dating app. Oh, and she flipped out royally. She tried to break up with me for it by literally hunting me down in public where she knew I was going to be, and tried to break up with me, causing a huge scene, but then realized, she didn't actually want to and didn't have a good reason to, and that she was acting crazy, trying to break up with me for something she had suggested. And instead, I held her to it and didn't allow her to flip-flop or to break up with me. I kept fucking her and opened up the relationship and started looking for other girls for us to, potentially even have a threesome with. After that, we were basically just friends with benefits, and I was basically just using that manipulative bitch for sex while being free to have it with other girls as well. So you see, in all of these cases, I didn't let them manipulate me and get what they wanted. Instead, I used that manipulation to turn the tables and get something that I wanted that they didn't want me to have and get away with it. And what happens with the girls' communication style after a few of these epic fails and seeing the consequences of saying the opposite of what they mean? Well, they grow the fuck up and start communicating like an adult. Either that or, the relationship will probably deteriorate. They'll probably just, get too pissed off about one of these things and end up leaving you. But the next manipulation tactic is projection. Projecting or projection? Projecting happens when a woman tries to accuse you of something she is doing before you can accuse her of it. Her logic here is that you won't accuse her of something that she has just accused you of. So for instance, if you have a girl accuse you of cheating when you aren't, and there is no evidence or reason for her to think that you are, it is likely that she's doing it because she is actually cheating on you. Or if not that, then just because she is the type of person to cheat and has cheated in the past, or maybe has thought about cheating on you. So what happens when someone's projecting is they're basically looking at their own shadow side and projecting it onto others and assuming that they have the same negative traits, right? And so then they will look at what that person's doing and say, aha, that person is doing this, right? That person's acting this way because they're just like that, So anytime they accuse you of something, or even say they worry that you might do something like, something to them, you might hurt them or something like that, and it seems out of the blue, like it's completely unfounded in reality, it doesn't have any basis in anything you've done to make them not trust you or give you the benefit of the doubt. So you have to wonder, where is this coming from? And it's coming from them and the fact that they are that type of person. They are the type of person to think like that or act like that. And so you need to look at how women might be projecting their shadow side onto you. Does she constantly worry about you leaving her and need you to prove your loyalty even though you are completely loyal to her? Well, it's because she isn't a loyal type, and so she assumes you are just like her in that way. The next manipulation tactic is blame passing. Women will never be accountable and claim responsibility for their actions when they can pass the blame, even when they are caught doing something definitively wrong, and it is obviously them doing it. They will almost always find a way to blame pass and project their faults and flaws onto someone else and try to find ways to pass the blame onto them. For instance, saying something like, I was only cheating because you don't give me enough attention. Or, well, why should I have to hold myself to a higher standard when there's no good men out there? Or basically any language that takes the form of, maybe if you weren't so X, then I wouldn't have to be like Y. All right, that is called passing the blame. The next manipulation tactic that women are famous for, and only they use, is involving their sexuality in something in order to, basically use it for manipulation, which is something they are all apparently naturally, inclined to do. And this can come in two forms. One, where they start flirting with you in order to get you to become more agreeable. So a woman being flirty or showing sexual interest in a man will oftentimes get him to be more agreeable with her, and women know that. So for instance, a woman who is arguing with a MGTOW man might say something like, oh, come on, you don't really think that, do you? Don't you know that men need a good woman? While acting kind of, like seductive or sexy. So that is how women will use their sexuality and their sex appeal in a positive way, where they'll kind of be seductive and show sexual interest in a man to get him to, side with her and just be able to basically manipulate his opinion by having the kind of influence that, a woman has over a man when he thinks they have a sexual connection. However, negatively speaking, women can also use their sexuality in a much more weaponized fashion. So this is where they accuse men of doing something negative sexually and saying something like, oh, this must be all about sex. You men are all the same. You only want one thing, right? Or saying something like, you're only saying that because you're an incel who can't get a woman. Or in a worst case scenario, this could take the form of them accusing you of looking at them sexually or sexualizing them, or accusing you of flirting with them or sexually touching them or sexually harassing or assaulting them. But more on that later. Let's move on to the next manipulation tactic, which is when they use anecdotal evidence to make broad sweeping generalizations, as if that anecdotal evidence is conclusive scientific data that provides definitive proof for something, and that all things, are like that. So for instance, saying like, my last boyfriend was an abusive asshole. He beat me, and then when I got pregnant, he left me. So men these days are just so bad, you know, and they're all pigs or assholes or whatever. And I could tell, you know, you are no different, or they're talking about it like you are no different, like all men are bad because I dated one bad one. Or a woman who claims to be a rape victim, you know, saying, oh, I was raped when I was younger, so men are predators, and also words are violence, so I'm not going to listen to you. You know, these are the types of things that women do. They will take anecdotal evidence situation, a scenario in which one time something occurred, as proof that it's always like that. Nothing could be further from the truth, right? That could actually be an exception to any rule. You don't know what that one case actually means in the grander scheme of things. That's why anecdotal evidence is not considered scientific data. Then the next manipulation tactic is triangulation. This is when a female will recruit another female friend or two to join in the conversation and gang up on you. So then it's 2 or 3 or more against one. This can also be advanced into recruiting whole groups of women against you, especially if this is an argument taking place online. I've seen women take things from my profile and post them into groups of like feminazis or, you know, female psychopaths who are all, you know, bitching about men and having this sort of Misandry festival in these groups. I basically try to recruit them into campaigning against me together. And then the next manipulation tactic is logical fallacies. This is when someone uses logic that isn't actually logical and doesn't make sense once you think about it or analyze it. All right. So there's all sorts of logical fallacies, but essentially you need to look at what they're saying and see if the logic is there. You know, so for instance, if they say something like, you're just saying that because you're a white man and we live in a patriarchy and you are privileged, or something like that, or, you know, just calling upon some generic mantra or, you know, motto, even if it isn't a coherent response, you know, like saying, believe all women, or the future is female. You know, it makes no logical sense in response to what you've said. It just sounds good to them. That is a really stupid manipulation tactic. But again, literally, they will respond in any way that changes the narrative. The next manipulation tactic is false facts or downright lying. This is when they state facts that aren't actually true, okay? And you can't put it past them to just flat out lie and state false facts as if it's like scientific data. They do this, especially when they have a cause for it. Feminism has been skewing scientific data and misrepresenting facts for decades now. All right, so saying things like all women have experienced some form of domestic violence or harassment from men. They just don't all report it. That's a false fact there, okay? Or they may just downright lie and cite false claims to back up whatever they are saying. They might say, oh, well, I've got reports from all these people I know, which again is anecdotal evidence. All right, the next manipulation tactic is conjecture and sometimes fantasies. Conjecture occurs when a woman starts doing guesswork and making suppositions that are not based in fact or reality and thus cannot be backed up with proof, but are just something that she thinks will make her sound good. This is easy to spot because it usually begins with the word maybe or some other word like it that shows that she isn't actually sure of what she's saying. Like, maybe I'm just doing it because I care, right? Or maybe it will work out. You never know. Anything that is real and true doesn't have to be prefaced with the word maybe. And all you have to do there is point that out. Sometimes women will take this even further, though, with false fantasies. This is when a woman will create a theory or even an illusion that, again, cannot be proven because it is not rooted in reality. But she says that her point would be proven and you would be able to see the truth if only XYZ were to happen, as it should in a more ideal reality. So how this fantasy manipulation works is, for instance, if someone was debating marriage with a MGTOW, they could say, if you were married and had a family, then you would understand. Right? It is a beautiful thing, all right? Having a family and being married to a partner and basically painting this illusion for you that is supposed to sound good and the thought of is supposed to make you feel good when they paint it in this idyllic way. When in actuality, all it is a fantastic ideology that they're trying to make out to be a true reality that you can't understand because you're not in it. So feminists will use this type of manipulation by saying things like, if women were in charge, then you'd see how much better the world would be. All right, if women were in charge, there would be no war, only peace, right? And everything would be better. So again, they're painting a fantasy for you that they cannot prove is actually true. And socialists and communists do this too. They say things like, if we lived in a socialist or communist culture, then you would see how it would work and how it can be a utopia. All right, so don't let them manipulate you with this fantastic thinking. The next manipulation tactic that women use, and exclusively, again, this is something men don't do, is the sexism card. Like the race card, which I'm sure you're familiar with, women believe the sexism card trumps anything else and will use it when they're getting negative feedback and having their ideas challenged and have nothing else to say in their defense. So they'll accuse you of being sexist by being negative to them as a woman. They may say, you are being bigoted, or you are being misogynistic, or you are just a typical white privileged patriarchal man, or you are just a male chauvinist pig, or something like that, even when you weren't being sexist. But what they said was actually the most sexist thing to transpire. This is what some people would even call reverse sexism, and this will often take the form of the next manipulation tactic, which is agree or you're negative. So if a woman can't argue her point, she may just get extremely self-righteous and virtuous and often politicize it and then act like anyone who disagrees is an evildoer worthy of outrage because of their destructive impact. For instance, anyone who disagrees doesn't know what they're talking about. Or saying some version of, if you don't agree with me, you must be trying to hurt my feelings, is a common manipulation tactic in romantic relationships when you're supposed to care about the woman's feelings. You know, so when you disagree with her, she'll act like she's getting hurt by it, and you're obviously trying to hurt her feelings by disagreeing. The same principle applies when people take offense to something when, you know, you're a friend who's supposed to not be offending them. You know, women will oftentimes act offended if you're someone who cares if they're offended or not. You know, that is just a great way to get a person to change their position. And this tactic also takes an even more insidious form when there's political agendas at work, such as when a feminist says anyone who doesn't believe all women is a misogynist who's only furthering rape culture. Or the wage gap is real, okay? It has been proven, and anyone who disagrees is only doing so because they are a patriarchal sexist who hates and oppresses women, right? Or if you aren't for abortion, you are against women's rights and are an oppressor. This is not just contained to political issues and sexism, though. There are, you know, many examples. Those are just some of them. But women will oftentimes, again, have this sort of black and white, my way or the highway type of thinking where they'll make it seem like if you don't agree with them, you are negative in some way. They're going to be painting out any dissenters to be some sort of negative, evil types of people who are hurting them. And then the next manipulation tactic is politicizing things. When women make political issues out of something that, you know, isn't really inherently a political issue, you know, wasn't originally, but if she politicizes it, then she could find a way to get her way. A woman who has been seriously indoctrinated by feminism, by taking gender studies courses in school, will be adept at politicizing any issue and making it about your being male and white, if you are white. In fact, she may be able to cite numerous different political issues with your argument and get you so bogged down in her made-up issues that she hopes you will spend the entire rest of the debate focusing on them and trying to refute them instead of dealing with your original points that you were trying to make and her having to refute those. So this will often start with her saying something like, well, let's unpack that. And then claiming that subconsciously you were oppressing her due to your patriarchal social conditioning and the systemic nature of society and how you are on top of it as a man or something, you know. And you know, again, it may not even address what you have said at all. It may just be a diversion tactic made up of a bunch of gobbledygook with some special political jargon mixed in, like her saying, okay, let's unpack that. Do you see the words you used? The way you are staring at me with your male gaze? The way you are manspreading while you're sitting there on your macho throne in your ivory tower while you talk to me so patronizingly? This all reeks of patriarchy, misogyny, and white male oppression. And if you want to have this conversation, you are going to have to check your privilege at the door and open your mind and be ready to learn and change so that you can stop objectifying and oppressing us women with your sexist mansplaining. So you can see there how after all of that, you may not even remember what you had said previously. And you're just going to be kind of sitting there like, what? And your instinct is going to now be responding to what she has said and trying to refute what she has said. So she has, in fact, successfully turned the tables, okay? And then when debating has failed, they move on to even more aggressive manipulation tactics with the next one, which is name calling. And so if a woman cannot discredit you through argument, she will do so by slandering your name with name calling. This could be through just calling you names paired with expletives, such as saying, "Shut the fuck up, you stupid incel." Or it could be more political, like saying, "You're only saying that because you're a right-wing Nazi." Or it could be used to discredit your statement by belittling it and you at the same time, such as saying, "Wow, what an idiot. I thought you were stupid, but not that stupid to say something like that." Right? Or only a moron would say such a thing. That's what you are, a fucking moron, right? Or it could be just plainly calling you an asshole or a piece of shit. But basically, when they can't argue with you, they will call you whatever they can to make you look bad, or do the next manipulation tactic, which is using shaming language. This is like name calling, only more psychological. It is meant to have a much more negative emotional and social impact on you, such as publicly humiliating or embarrassing you, or accusing you of a taboo or something, right? And so the most common way this is done today is with women calling us men incels, saying things like, "Only an incel would say such a thing." And before that, it was calling us gay, you know, saying like, "What are you, gay or something?" Or trying to say that we're the type of man that, you know, no woman could ever love, right? By, you know, saying, "Oh, you know, I could tell you've never been loved before. I could tell you've never had sex before. I could tell you're a virgin," or "I could tell you've never been in a relationship," or, you know, something like that, that is meant to make the man ashamed of himself and to embarrass himself publicly, and thus completely discredit him, even though they haven't actually refuted his argument. But you see, what women do when they cannot refute your argument is they will attack your character, which leads me to the next manipulation tactic, which is just that, and that is called ad hominem, which is the, you know, fancy official psychological term for when, instead of addressing the argument and arguing back in response to what someone said, they attack you as a person and your character, and even attempt to break down your sense of identity. Such as saying, "Well, I can see why you are single." Or something feminists used to say to me when they really hated one of my messages. They would say, "You call yourself a sex educator? Well, you're not, so you shouldn't." Then there's women's all-time favorite ad hominem attack against men, and that is to say, "You're not a real man. If that's how you are, a real man wouldn't do that. A real man would do this," you know, whatever it is I say. They love trying to attack someone's sense of identity and break it down. Why? So that they can then build it back up in whatever mold they want it to be. You know, tell a man that he's not a real man if he thinks and says and does X, Y, Z. But to be a real man, you then think, say, and do what the woman tells you. Okay, that's the power of the ad hominem attack. And it seems like whenever I say something a woman doesn't like and can't debate, she goes to this and will call me an incel, or say that I shouldn't hold the position or title or role that I have, or some way of attacking who I am. And they will even go as far as to like screenshot my profile and then circle things like that I say that I'm single, or, you know, different things, and then comment on them. And again, it all has nothing to do with the debate that was supposed to be going on. And then another thing they do when they really can't debate you and are struggling to do so is talking over you. Once they realize that the more you say, the more things they have to refute that they cannot, the less of a chance they have, the more they're going to start just talking over you and disallowing you from having a chance to even speak. All right, just talking at you without pause, or worse, raising their voice over yours, perhaps even getting irate and yelling and screaming at you, just trying to subjugate you. And then the next manipulation tactic is mind reading. This is where a woman will become the thought police and will claim to know what your secret hidden thoughts and feelings and intentions behind your own words and actions are, which is what makes them bad. They may say, "It's not what you said or did, it's what your intentions were when you did it." Or they may also use other behavioral cues to perform a cold reading and say that you used the wrong tone or had the wrong facial expression when you said something, which is what makes it malicious. All right, so it's not what you said, it's how you said it. right? Or it's not what you did, it's the vibe it gave me. Or I can tell when you say you love me, you're lying because of how you say it. Or you say you want to help me, but I can tell you just want to hurt me when you're not doing enough for them. Yeah, watch out for these mind reading tactics. And then the next manipulation tactic is gaslighting. This is a psychological term for when a person distorts the other's reality and attempts to make them doubt their grasp on it and even their own sanity. And they either make this person out to be delusional to others in order to discredit them, or if it's just an argument between them, they try to make that person feel delusional and doubt their own reality. Such as when women say, wow, that's crazy, or you are acting crazy, or why are you so mad, or saying, okay, weirdo, or oh my god, you are fucking insane, or wow, you are so fucked up, or you need a therapist if that's what you think. So anytime you make a completely rational argument and they respond by accusing you of not being sane, that's gaslighting. However, gaslighting doesn't just come in this form. It can also be them distorting reality by lying to you about things and stating that they occurred differently than you know that they did. They could even restate your own words back to you in a way that you have never used language before, claiming that you said something that doesn't even sound like you. Maybe it's a word you don't even know. Women have done that with me. Or they could say that you did something you know you didn't do, or recite events that transpired between you differently than you know them to have transpired. And when you tell them you know it didn't happen like that, that is when they will start gaslighting you and try to get you to doubt your own memory and your own sense of reality. And if this continues, the next thing they try to undermine is your mental health. And they will literally get you to feel like you are losing your mind. The topic of gaslighting is such a deep and complex psychological one that I'm actually going to be doing a whole video taking a deeper dive into it next after this one, so you can watch out for that one. But then the next manipulation tactic are mind games. This is often combined with mind reading and gaslighting, and combining them together with mind games can take things much further. So a woman may try to get into your head and toy with you in order to trigger an emotional reaction, such as saying, I can tell that your parents did a number on you when you were young. Did your mother abuse you? Is that why you're incapable of a relationship, because you hate women? I bet you have some really fucked up ideas about us, don't you? Are you one of those perverted freaks that watches like fucked up S&M porn? And they're not just doing this because they're wicked and it's fun for them. They're doing it because once they have triggered the emotional response, it is then taken as an admission of guilt, and they will make it seem like they have proven themselves right and you wrong, even if they were hitting you way below the belt and saying a lot of wrong things to get you to react. And the end justifies the means to them. So women will either do this when they want to really get under the skin of a guy and fuck with him mentally, but they will also do it when you are in public, or especially, in a social situation, and they are trying to make you out to be the bad guy. They would then do it more subtly than this. This was a bit overt. My example was a bit overt, but when you're out in a social situation, they might often do this in a more subtle way to try to get you to show your true colors, try to get you angry, to show that you are a bad guy, that you are toxic or whatever. And these mind games can be used to a greater extent over a longer period of time, along with gaslighting, so be sure to watch out for them. And then the next manipulation tactic is the victim card. This is where a woman will play the victim even if they are victimizing you. They will play this card to turn the tables and try to get you to sympathize with them and lose track of the fact that you are actually being victimized by them. Or this could actually take an even worse form, which is them acting as though you are the one victimizing them, and will start to act like they need to defend themselves against you or some sort of threat, even when there is none. This could be as common and subtle as a woman saying, stop disrespecting me, or stop harassing me, even when you haven't. But it can also be much more manipulative than that. Women will often play the victim and put on an emotional act in order to get you to sympathize with them and recruit them to their perspective. Have you ever been in a political argument with a feminist or a crazy leftist liberal who then declared that she had been raped before and got all emotional and started crying, even though it wasn't really a congruent response in the debate? That was her trying to use her victimhood to get you to feel sympathy for her enough to stop debating her and come over to her side to console her and agree with her. Crying may be used in this one, which trumps any argument for a woman, and women who are adept at playing the victim card have trained themselves to be so emotionally manipulative, not only of others, but of themselves, that they can turn their tears on and off at will in order to coerce you to do and think what they want. The victim card can at times be used in an even darker, more malicious manner, though, which is when they use it against you in order to make it seem like you are the one victimizing them and need to stop what you are saying or doing, even if you aren't actually victimizing them. The worst form of this is when they do it in public along with triangulation to try to get other people nearby to come and rescue her from you. A woman may even try to win an argument in public by making it look as though you are attacking her. She may do something like putting her hands on you, and then when you bat them away, she'll stumble or fall backwards, crying and screaming in order to make it look like you hit her. And then once people start rushing to her aid, she knows you will do anything to get back on her good side, lest this lead to the next manipulation tactic, which is false accusations. When a woman feels she has lost an argument or a fight, she may begin to lash out at you. A woman may call in whatever authorities she can to report you to and accuse you of harassing her, be it the HR department where you work, or your boss, or if you are online, the platform you are on. Or she may cite you in the Me Too movement, claiming that you made her uncomfortable with words of violence. Whatever the case, she'll claim to whoever she can that it wasn't that she was in a debate that she lost, it's that she was being harassed. Some more manipulative and tactful women may not even do this verbally, but will start to physically act like you are going to do something you aren't, like pretending to be physically intimidated and afraid by you, so that others nearby will come to her aid and instantly, saddle up beside her and be on her side, even when you're not acting intimidating. And then the next manipulation tactic beyond that is threats. Even if they are the ones who started the conversation, they may quickly then try to end it by acting as though you are an aggressor who won't stop talking to them, and say something like, leave me alone or I'll report you to HR, or leave me alone or you'll be sorry, or I have a lot of brothers who are much bigger than you, or I have a boyfriend who could kick your ass, or some sort of idle threat. And yes, even grown women in the professional world will stoop to that level. And then the final manipulation tactic, and worst of all, is physical violence. A woman may lash out physically if she has lost an argument or fight that was just verbal. Not having the debate skills to win it, she takes it physical. And this could be as simple as her acting shocked and like she has to defend her honor by giving you a good old-fashioned slap in the face. Like when I said to my girlfriend once, you get all dolled up to go out with some bitch, but you never put on makeup for me. And she slapped me instead of defending herself because she knew I was right. But I had made my point in a bit aggressive and offensive of a way. So she saw that her best option to respond was not to say, yeah, you're right. I'll put in more effort for you, but to act shocked and appalled by the way I said it and slap me. However, this can get much worse than just a slap to the face. And if your argument is in public, a woman may simply start striking you and screaming at you and even clawing at you, knowing that since you are in public, you can't hit her back, right? Because any onlookers are going to say, oh man, there's a guy attacking a woman, in spite of the fact that she instigated it, even if he was just defending himself. And it's a dangerous situation to be in, because even pushing her off of you, if she stumbles and trips and falls, onlookers could still think that you were the one attacking her. And even if you allow her to just keep physically hitting you, onlookers could think that you had done something to her first and that she was just defending herself. And women know that when they get violent with a man, that because society teaches men to never hit a woman, there's really nothing he can do, and it just doesn't look good no matter what he does. He's damned if he does this and he's damned if he doesn't and does something else. And there's really no good way to respond to female violence. And even if the cops show up, they will take her side, and women know that too. So that is really the ultimate and most advanced female manipulation tactic. And so in conclusion, how do you argue with any of these manipulation tactics? Well, you either don't, because talking to someone who does this type of thing is really beneath us men socially. Or if you must, for professional or political reasons or whatever, you call them out on whatever tactics they were using. and tell them that you know exactly what they were doing, and that manipulation tactics such as these have no place in a reasonable debate or a healthy social dynamic. And you can ask them if they would like to try again, and if not, just end the conversation. All right, that's all you can really do. Okay, so that concludes this talk. I hope I mansplained that well enough for you guys out there. Thanks for listening, and be sure to share your own thoughts and opinions by commenting below, and especially share any other manipulation tactics that I have missed that you know women use. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and share these messages with everyone by sharing the video on social media and talking about these things too. And lastly, check out the links in the description below for other resources for your masculine personal development and living the life you want to as an independent man. And if you can afford to donate, please do so with the PayPal link below, because your support funds me doing this work and fighting the good fight for men like you. And you can stay tuned for the next video coming out soon, which will be on gaslighting. And make sure you're subscribed so you'll be notified when that is. And until then, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.